Blog Talk Radio.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to The Calling Hours on Horror Society Radio. This is your host, Michael Jones, the dead man from Horror Society. Welcome you to another edition, of course, to The Calling Hours. This evening, I think we're going to have a pretty interesting show. Our main interview this evening will be with Sean Clark of Horror's Hallowed Grounds, HorrorT-shirts.com, and All-Star Conventions. I'm pretty sure this gentleman will have plenty to say to us about being on locations and what it's like to do work with such a fascinating DVD Blu-ray company such as Scream Factory. In addition to that, this evening our Metal Blade feature artist will be Amon Amarth. We will be hearing select songs from their new CD, Deceiver of the Gods. And also this evening, we will be doing a Blu-ray DVD giveaway about the 9:30 hour. The movie in particular that we will be reviewing will be Psycho 3, a Scream Shout Factory title. Go figure, right? But we love our friends over at Scream Factory, so. Well, this evening, I'm going to have a special guest co-host. I have a pretty good friend of mine out here in Apex, North Carolina. We simply refer to him as the host macker. That's a long story. Maybe one day when we're sitting around the funeral pyre, we'll sit down and discuss it. But my main man, Calvin, is here. Calvin, say hello to the good people of the Calling Hours and Horror Society Radio.
What's happening, guys? Welcome to the show.
So this evening we have plenty of interesting events to cover. As always, we shall start out with our news segment. And I think we have a fair amount of interesting news this evening. Tonight we're going to start off with a little band called Goblin. And for those of you that are horror aficionados out there, you should remember Goblin as, you know, the guys that did a lot of work for Dario Argento's films, you know, Suspiria and things like that. As a matter of fact, I just found out that December 14th in Carborough, North Carolina, that Goblin and Zombie, which is a progressive electronic duo from Pittsburgh, will be playing. And there are different ticket prices, including a VIP meet and greet with a poster. Now, you know, for me, Argento's early work, you know, is extremely influential. I love the, you know, sounds, you know, the fury, everything that goes into Goblin. And I should preface that my buddy Calvin is, by no means is he a horror aficionado, but going back to that time period, he's not as well versed, but I've forced him a couple of times to have to watch some things. And do you remember? I remember Suspiria being one of the movies that we watched. Do you remember anything about the soundtrack?
Not too much, except that I thought it was a little entertaining for the most part.
But I'm looking at now, since home base for Horror Society is in Chicago, Illinois, I'm throwing it out there that November 29th in Chicago at the Empty Bottle, you'll be able to see these guys. It looks like they're pretty much hitting the upper north part of the country. We're looking at Minneapolis, Milwaukee, to Holly Von Doom out there. December 3rd, it is coming to St. Louis at, what does it say, the 2720 Cherokee. I'm not sure what that is. December 4th and 5th, Cincinnati and Cleveland, Ohio, respectively. December 6th in Pittsburgh. December 8th in Albany. December 10th in Boston. The 11th in New Haven, Connecticut. The 12th in Pennsylvania. And the 13th in D.C. And, of course, we have the 14th in Carborough. So, if you're a fan living in North Carolina, I'm sure you've been to the Cat's Cradle to see a show. I would highly recommend this. I mean, this is a rare opportunity to really see when a true masters were doing soundtracks for horror movies. So I would definitely check into that. Now, to follow along with the whole Goblin thing, we also have a report that Death Waltz Records is teaming up with Goblin for a 2013 tour EP with re-recordings of classic tracks from them. And this comes from BloodyDisgusting.com. So what they're basically looking to do is they're going to put together an EP that features re-recorded tracks from some of the band's classic horror soundtracks. And the reason for that was the tracks were re-recorded to sound more in line with their current live setup. In particular, tracks include Profondo Rosso, Roller, Suspiria, and Tenebrae. There is a video teaser that you can see on Bloody Disgusting's site. So it appears that Goblin's pretty much getting themselves back in. And of course Argento is doing Dracula 3D. I know you said you don't know a lot about Goblin, but do you feel like some of the music and the sounds from the earlier films really help to impact the films as opposed to the atmosphere we get today?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, you take a listen to the music today, and a lot of it's a lot more refined sounding. You have to, turn back time a little bit and think about, the music that was being made at the time and how it appealed to the people then. I mean, obviously, there's a different kind of impact that the music probably had in that day and time. Listening to the music now, you're definitely, it's easier, I think, for most people to come up with tracks, simply from their garage, for the lack of better terms, and you can come up with pretty good stuff. And so, the talent back then was certainly talented. Today's day and age, you're gonna find a dime a dozen people that can pretty much throw something together, whereas opposed to back then, I would definitely say the music was a lot more impactful. I mean, it was well thought out, well planned. People really put a lot of effort into the music in that time.
That's true, because nowadays anyone can sit down behind a computer and put together a soundtrack, can't they?
I'd say.
Well, as a little bit further news, everyone loves the Final Destination series. And Bloody Disgusting also ran this one. There is a Final Destination 6 concept trailer that they have online. And to quote the article, what we're looking at is Final Destination producer Craig Perry is pushing New Line to get a sixth film made. And he put a concept trailer online. And it's called Final Destination 6, The Dark Age. And the article goes on to say, which takes the fun concept of cheating death back to the 12th century. Here's something fun, Craig Perry, producer of Final Destination, and I have discussed a possible direction the franchise could take. It inspired this edit of a concept trailer for a sixth Final Destination movie. The trailer is a mix of over 20 different films and TV shows. The idea is to draft behind Game of Thrones and set it in the 12th century. Now, I've had an opportunity to see the trailer, and it's cut footage from, several period piece films, from that time period. And, I have to admit, it looks like it's fun, but I really don't know, where you can go. I mean, you can show death through time. I mean, we can go back to the caveman era. We can go back to a lot of other things with that. As enjoyable as I find the series, I think they're kind of starting to run it into the ground. I mean, death as an entity you can only do so much with. How much more the censor board's going to let you do? How much more graphic can you get? How many more new ways can you kill somebody? What are your takes on a Final Destination 6 set in the Dark Ages, and what are your current thoughts on the series as a whole right now?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I watched a couple of the Final Destinations, and I tell you the truth, I stopped after the second one, maybe the third one, and to be honest with you, I mean, exactly, you're right. I mean, how many different ways are there to die? I mean, might as well be watching 1,001 Ways to Die, right? So, set in the Dark Ages, okay, yeah, it could be a pretty cool little twist, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't get it. Final Destination, first, second installments, yeah, it's pretty cool, but I don't know, 6, seems like a little bit too much to me. That's just my personal take. I mean, not that I don't like that style of movie, but, to me, it's not so much horror as much as it is you go and you sit down and you watch, and there's impending doom about to smash on top of your head, hey, death's lurking right around the corner. I mean, yeah, hey, great, we all get it, right? It's a lot of fun, but, to me it's not all that scary, especially when you know what the final destination really is, right?
I mean, it's true, and it's, it kind of harkens back to the Saw series, in my opinion, which I absolutely loved. It wouldn't break my heart to keep seeing it, but at the same time, just like the Saw series, you know what's happening, you know what's coming. How many different ways can you just gorily kill people?
Well, I think the difference between Saw and a Final Destination installment is this, that there is a lot of sadism that comes with Saw that you do not get with Final Destination. At least that's my take on it. I mean, a log bouncing off the road, taking out a motorcyclist in your I think it was the first one, wasn't it? Destination 1.
Where the log accident happened?
Sure, yeah.
I believe you're correct.
Right.
On that.
So, I mean, right. Well, anyway, shit happens, right? Time and chance happen to us all. But Saw, there's device and mechanism, and there's obviously a sadistic mind behind it. They're getting glee out of the ripping the limbs off of folks and stepping on razor blades and all of that, which you're not really getting, I don't think, too much with the Final Destination. I mean, I'm sure they can come up with creative ways to catapult your ass off of a ballista, right?
And actually, they showed that in the trailer.
Did they really? I haven't seen the trailer yet. But I mean, I'm sure there's creative things they can do in the Dark Age, right? But, is the sadism there like with Saw? No, I don't think so. Does that mean that I necessarily endorse Saw over Final Destination? No, I don't know. That's a tough call. I mean, I don't know. I'm with you on that, though.
Well, I mean, we'll have to see, but I mean, I feel like they pretty much closed the series out with the last film, so I really don't feel like there's too much more that they can go with as it pertains to that series. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, they continue to make money, so it's not like it's really costing the studio anything. And with the concept of death being a character that you never have to see, just the end result, I mean, it does leave the series open for further interpretation.
Well, there was that creep factor, too. I mean, the little dude rolling around on his wheelchair, the little doll.
Oh, you're talking about in Saw, yeah.
I mean,
and don't forget, we do have the Candyman, Tony Todd, who played the Candyman, of course, is the coroner in the Final Destination series. He's about the closest thing you have to a face for, quote-unquote, the murderer that is death. And I'll never get tired of seeing Tony Todd on my screen, but we just have to see what happens. But parlaying from one franchise to another, once again, Bloody Disgusting brings to my attention that there is a push for a Scream 5. The rumor has it
quoting Harvey Weinstein here of all people, if he has his way, Scream 5 would end the series. And this news came about. Mr. Weinstein took part in a master class at the still underway Zurich Film Festival in Switzerland. And, he's going out there for screenings for a bunch of films. And what he's basically saying is that he's urging his brother Bob, who heads up Dimension Films, to go ahead and make Scream 5. And he goes on to say, everyone lived in Scream 4. So the possibilities of the characters coming back for another run with Ghostface, are pretty good. But, he's hoping to wrap things up with the 5th installment of the film. I'm begging him to do the movie, he's quoted as saying, and just end it. We've milked that cow. But as an interesting side note, I'm sure as many of you have heard, Wes Craven is now developing a Scream television series for MTV. Jay Beatty and Dan Dworkin are currently pending the pilot. There are fans that want another series, but the other interesting aspect is that they want to take the TV series in more of a supernatural area as opposed to bringing the characters from the movies in. And, just as an interesting side note, Scream 4 had a budget of $40 million, the 4th film in the franchise, and it took in about $100 million worldwide. So there was definitely an audience for the film. So what do you think about them closing out the original film series with a 5th one? Where would you want to see it go? And we'll get to the MTV thing in a minute. Let's just discuss that for a minute. How would you want to see them close out the Scream series?
Well, as if Scream 4 wasn't enough. Look, I liked the Scream series the little bit that I watched. The thing about it is that there was there was just a little bit too much put into plot. There was a whole lot of plot to the Scream series, not a lot of horror. I did like it, though. I'm not going to sit here and shoot you wrong. I did like it. I enjoyed them. 5, if 5 was the final installment, yeah, okay. Let's put a close to that chapter. It was a good series. It was a good run. I would say that the production value was good. I would say that, for the most part, they had a fairly decent story to tell. The only thing was I think they put a lot of emphasis on the story and not enough on the horror itself.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is that the series is supposed to be, a tongue-in-cheek to the horror genre. I feel like if they're going to do it, the only way to successfully end the series, in my mind, is that the character of Sydney has to either become the killer in this one or she gets killed off. As long as she, is not the killer or is still alive, you can make 100 of these. So I feel like that's the only two ways the franchise can go.
What are we talking, like a case of multiple personality disorder?
Sure. Why not? After being traumatized 4 times by different killers, who's to say she doesn't flip the script?
Right, and she becomes
the killer. It's an interesting aspect to take with it.
You could go that way with it.
But now here's the part that frightens me. I am all for Wes Craven developing a series out of this. What makes me nervous is taking it in the supernatural aspect and putting it on MTV. Now, here's something that I know you can speak to, being a werewolf fan. You checked into the Teen Wolf series that's on MTV.
I did.
And, I'd expressed concern to you that with it going to MTV, I was afraid it was going to turn into a soap opera, which it basically has.
Well, Teen Wolf aside, I can't really speak. I think that anything that Craven's going to make is probably going to be pretty good. With a Scream TV series, it'd be interesting to see how they go with it. And it would depend technically on the type of supernatural element that they use. But you are right. If you're catering to MTV, right, you're looking at the Teen Wolf type garbage. Look,
Jersey Shore.
Let's face it, right? Twilight is not horror, right? Twilight is not horror. Now, I know a lot of people could argue that, but, hey, look, the facts are, if you're appealing to the MTV crowds out there, really, how scary can it get? I don't know. Teen Wolf, that.
But I mean, even I have to admit, the series started with promise.
But it did. It looked great. I mean, there were a couple of things. I mean, it looked like it was going to spin up and go into a pretty decent direction. And then all of a sudden you get the Team Edward. Then all of a sudden you get the Team Jacob. And it's like, okay, all right. We saw the Twilight thing, right? I'm tired of seeing that garbage. Why do I want to watch a soap opera about Twilight? Because that's basically what Teen Wolf is. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you like that kind of thing, sure, go for it. But it's not horror. I mean, there were some scary parts in it. Okay, was there some gore? Yeah, there was some gore here and there. But was it horror? I can't really. It's horror wannabe. That's the best I can make.
It's horror light. It's and I can kind of dig it to the point where horror is being brought to a younger audience. I mean, I dig that and I respect it, but
well, let's not water it down. I mean, let's face it. When I was a kid,
well, true. I mean, the Scream series has been R-rated.
Right.
Why dumb it down for a younger audience who more than likely is not even going to appreciate where the origins of it came from?
I don't want to offend any of your listeners, but we are talking about a generation of skinny jeans wearing, pink shirt wearing, high tops and blue hair. I mean, how serious can you be taken? I mean, I don't know. When I was a kid, we watched scary movies and we got the shit scared out of us, Well,
sure.
Nowadays, it's like, everything's so PC that you can't scare the shit out of anybody anymore. So, and MTV seems to have catered to that a lot lately, which, I hate to admit. I remember MTV in a day when,
they played.
Yeah, Mom and Dad were like, you can't watch that. There's racy songs on this TV, this TV channel. You can't watch that. And nowadays, I don't see any music on MTV anymore. It's all garbage.
Right, you got to stay up till like 4 in the morning.
Spring Break, 2013. Look out.
We should do a horror themed Spring Break. That would be kind of cool. Another bit of interesting news. This one off of Fangoria.com. The final Maniac remake Blu-ray and DVD details have been released, and it will have 2 covers. For those of you not familiar with the film that I'm speaking of, this is a remake of the 1980 film directed by William Lustig, and it starred Joe Spinell and Carolyn Monroe. The remake edition, which was directed by Frank Calfoun and scripted by The Hills Have Eyes and High Tension's Alexandre Aja and Gregory Levasseur, is being released on unrated DVD and Blu-ray on October 15th under the IFC Midnight banner. It will have reversible cover art, the first being a picture of Elijah Wood on the front with a knife in his hand, looking in a shattered mirror. The second one is a mannequin with blood running down its face and a scalped wig on it. Elijah Wood stars, of course, like I said, playing the role that Joe Spinell played as Frank. The basic premise of the movie is Frank stalks the streets of Los Angeles and scalps female victims. Nora Ehrenzetter plays Anna, a young artist who becomes his obsession. The DVD will come with audio commentary, a feature-length documentary covering all aspects of production, deleted scenes, alternate poster gallery, all that good stuff. It'll retail for about $24.98 on DVD and about $30 for the Blu-ray. Now, where we live in North Carolina, we have not been fortunate enough to see this play in any theater. Now, I am a fan of the original from 1980. I don't remember ever showing you that film.
I have not seen the original installment of Maniac. No.
It was an incredibly intense film. Got a lot of flack from censors, fell into the video nasties during the 80s, the whole thing that goes along with that.
I just think it'd be cool to see Frodo go apeshit with a knife. I want to see Frodo split some wigs.
Well, I mean, that's a good way of putting it. I definitely recommend to people that if you've not seen the original 1980s Maniac, you should see it. It definitely falls under the grindhouse category. It is one of the few films that I can honestly say that I watched and felt like I had to take a shower after I watched it. So that should tell you a lot about that film right there. But, you know, it's an odd film to see being remade, especially with Elijah playing the lead role, like you said. It's kind of hard to imagine Frodo running around scalping women, you know, and putting it on mannequins and stuff. But, you know, I have high promise for it. It's definitely a movie I'll be picking up just because, like I said, the first film it's very dirty, it's very gritty, but, you know, it was a product of its time in you know, the late 70s, early 80s style of filmmaking, and on those merits alone, it's definitely a film worth watching.
What was the other film that Elijah Wood did, a recent horror release? Do you recall?
I don't know. We can look that up.
I know that I think he just did one. I can't recall exactly what it was.
You may be thinking of old boy from Harry Potter just recently did some horror films.
That could be too.
I think that's what you're looking at. I didn't know that he was in a Tron Uprising TV series, though. Yeah, Maniac. Before that, yeah, I'm not seeing.
I mean, that's about the only thing I think I've seen him in was the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh,
it'd be interesting to see. I mean, you know, I'm sure he'll probably do a great job.
He's been in a ton of stuff. I mean, he was in Back to the Future Part 2.
I mean, based off of the photo shoots that are out there, I mean, he has a pretty sinister and dour look on his face. I mean, he looks like he's ready to rip some noggins up, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, and like I said, there's nothing better than seeing Frodo lose his mind. He was in Sin City as well. Huh. As you can tell, I don't watch a lot of his movies, but yeah, he was an American Dad as well. There you go. He was an American Dad, so that says everything we need to know right there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, being the big fan of American Dad that I am. But our last bit of news this evening, and this one comes off of HorrorSociety.com to credit our writer Michael Huvenall out there. Thanks, Mikey, for putting this one up. The French zombie series, The Returned, is going to be remade by A&D. And to quote the article, the French zombie series, The Returned, which aired last year in France, turned out to be a big hit for them and was subsequently aired in the UK this past spring. The series was also picked up by Sundance Channel to air in the US this Halloween season. Now A&E Network has plans on remaking the series for US audiences. They have had great success with their Bates Motel series, so now they plan on tackling the unorthodox zombies from The Returned. Word has it that Carlton Cuse, maybe? The executive producer and co-showrunner of Bates Motel is in talks to adapt the series. It's going to be a co-production between A&E Studios and Fremantle Media North America. It was created by Fabrice Gobert. Les Revenants, as it was known, was inspired by the 2004 feature film by the same name, directed by Robin Campillo. English language title, They Came Back. It focuses on a small town that is turned upside down when several local people who have been long presumed dead suddenly reappear, having not aged and unaware of their own fatality. As they attempt to resume their lives, strange phenomena and gruesome murders begin to occur. The Return takes an incredibly unique approach filled with suspense and twists and turns to the subject of the living dead. And I'm quoting David McKillop, A&E's EVP and General Manager. Tom Beers, FMNA CEO, says, having been Fabrice Gobert's original version and the success that the series has had in France, we're thrilled to be partnering with the team at A&E to bring this enigmatic thriller to U.S. audiences. Sundance Channel recently acquired the 8-episode first season for a Halloween debut, while Music Box Films is planning a January VOD DVD U.S. release. Now, I had not heard of this series before, but of course with the popularity of The Walking Dead and zombies in general, I think it'd be interesting to see another zombie series, especially since they're talking about spinning off The Walking Dead. And I know you're a big Walking Dead fan, so I mean, what would you like to see from a new zombie series, especially one from overseas?
Well, I was actually getting ready to make that same comment. I think that a lot of this is springing, or at least springboarding off of the idea from The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is going to be a hard thing to top in my book. I mean, I in all honesty, it's going to be a tough one to, for them to follow. I mean, certainly be worth a check out. What I'd like to see is perhaps a little bit more seriously thematic type stuff come out of this.
Sure.
You see some serious theme in The Walking Dead, but I think that The Walking Dead here lately has focused quite a bit on its character development, more of the character element, and there's not been a whole lot of zombie interaction. I mean, there has been, don't get me wrong, but, the majority of The Walking Dead has been focused, entirely on character development, as far as I can tell, for the past few seasons.
And what I wanted to see, though, is, with the rumors of them spinning off I almost said The Forever Dead, which was my first movie. How funny is that? But The Walking Dead, if they're going to do a spinoff, I would like to see a spinoff done from the view of the governor. Think about how much, because if you do another spinoff, it's basically going to be the story of Rick without Rick. It would be interesting to see the flip side of what Rick is trying to do, to see the governor out there running wild and just mowing everything down because he lost his mind.
Well, in a setting like this, right, everybody is pretty much out for survival, including, everybody's out for survival. And the zombies themselves, they're out there trying to do their thing. They're hungry. They want to snack on some brains. And everybody's in this big old hodgepodge of trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And, for the most part, if you were to start this story, like, in The Walking Dead, if you were to start this story, say, with the governor as opposed to Rick, you might have a little bit more love for the governor. What you see what I'm saying? I mean, it just depends on at what point what's your jump off point? Who do you follow into the tragedy that is ensuing? You start out with Rick in this in The Walking Dead, and so you follow him throughout, and you start to develop a care for these guys. These characters are developed in your mind. You understand who they are, what they want. You've got a history in your mind. If you were to have started this series off with the governor, you probably could achieve the same effects. The difference is, loyalties come into play.
Right.
In a situation like that, and so, it'll be interesting to see what they do with this new, French zombie series.
That's true. I'm going to have to really look into it some more, but, it could be an interesting alternative because I know some people are kind of tired of the human element.
Right.
That they've been running. So,
let's see some more zombies.
Let's see what we get. Well, coming up in about 10 minutes, we will begin our interview with Mr. Sean Clark of Horror's Hallowed Grounds. I'm really looking forward to that. But this evening, our Metal Blade Spotlight feature is on a little band called Amon Amarth. These guys, it's different. It's, Swedish melodic death metal that's got a Nordic storyline to it. And when I've listened to them in the past, I mean, I liked their music, but it wasn't what I really jumped on. Power metal's not the word that I want, but I just felt like there was another level that they could go to. And this CD, their ninth, Deceiver of the Gods, certainly fits that bill. So this evening, to start off our Metal Blade Spotlight, we are going to play Amon Amarth's single off the new album, Deceiver of the Gods. The song is entitled We Shall Destroy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and we'll be back in 4.5 minutes. And that was Amon Amarth's We Shall Destroy off of the new CD, Deceiver of the Gods, from Metal Blade Records. Don't worry, a little bit later on in the evening, we will be hitting back on Amon Amarth for our second spotlight song from them. But this evening, our interview will be with Sean Clark, who is pretty well known for, doing a lot of the special behind-the-scenes stuff on Shout and Scream Factory's DVDs, in a series entitled Horror's Hallowed Grounds, of course, which he's been doing for several years, not just, for Scream Factory. He has done other shows, web-based, going back to 2006. Some of the titles included from Shout Scream Factory that include his work are the Blu-rays of Halloween 2 and Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. He also did one for The Howling, The Fog, and Prince of Darkness. Of course, all great classic horror films from our time. And when we get Sean on here, when he calls in a little bit, it's going to be really interesting to hear his take on what it was like to go and visit these places and wonder, this is where Dee Wallace stood, or, Donald Pleasance was right here for this scene and things like that. Now, Sean is also known for HorrorT-shirts.com. If you like your horror T-shirts and you want to get some unique items, I would definitely recommend that you head there. He's also in charge of something called All-Star Conventions. If you are looking to get people from our genre out for your convention or for speaking engagements or anything like that, he's definitely the man to go through. So really looking forward to picking his brain. What are your thoughts on talking to Sean this evening?
I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really interested in seeing, what he's got to say about his feelings with respect to, seeing some of the historical places that some of these films have been recorded. I mean, I'm sure it's probably something that he quite enjoys a lot. I can't imagine anybody wouldn't. I mean, it's just really neat what he does.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to pick his brain, see how he likes it, and,
Well, and I know my people out at Shout and Scream Factory, are looking forward to hearing him on the show tonight because, speaking with Tom Chen and Sarah DeBrune out there, of course, working there, they love the product, they speak highly of it, and, Tom has gone out of his way to let me know several times he thinks that, Sean's work is absolutely exceptional, absolutely exceptional. There you go, said it right this time. But, in a way, as a horror journalist as well, I'm pretty envious. Like I said, it's got to be pretty cool to be able to drive out to some of these locations, and be in these spots. It is horror history, and that's what's nice about the Horror's Hallowed Grounds series is, not only are you getting to see where these things are filmed, but, Sean does a good job of going into the details of the history, the locations surrounding the area and things like that. So definitely, I mean, like you just watched the Howling one not that long ago. What were your impressions on that?
I thought it was great. I mean, there's cut scenes where, especially where he shows little montages where it shows the original sections of the film, and then it shows him, emulating or repeating the exact same type of sequence. And it's just neat to see how the passage of time hasn't changed that much. I mean, there's definitely, the mark of time on some of this. But it's still neat to know when you look at it, how cool it really is. It's like, you're looking at something that was recorded, some 20, 30 years ago. And, you see him go out and revisit these places which are still there, and some places which aren't.
Right.
And it kind of gives you an in-depth insight into, something that occurs with all film, not just the horror genre, but it occurs with all film, which is that, there is a historical documentation that's taken place. Even though it is entertainment, there's still imagery and footage and scenes of things that, are being shot from years ago, which may not still be standing. It's just a neat way of looking back to how things have been captured and lost and things that are still standing it's real neat to see how things, you know, stand the test of time. There's a lot of monoliths and whatnot, you know, just.
Oh, sure, you know, and I agree, and you know, I've never done anything near remotely as big as The Fog or The Howling or any of these classic movies, but you know, it's still cool, you know, an area where we are, places where I know we've shot stuff and done stuff. But, you know, it's really cool to go back a couple of years later and see these locations again, and you know, to relive the feelings that you had being there, and you know, things along those lines. It's, you know, it's almost like a sense of accomplishment. It's hard to explain, you know, for those that haven't worked on film or, you know, been in film. But yeah, I mean, being able to tangibly be able to put someplace, you know, to be someplace and look at it and go, man, you know, I saw this place in Friday the 13th, or I saw this place in Halloween, you know, I was actually there. It gives you a more visceral connection to not only the film and the actors, but you know, to the sense of historical accuracy that it gives you. It's an amazing thing to see, you know. So like I said, when Sean calls in and joins us, you know, I think it'll be great. Like I said, it's, you know, he has a job that a lot of us wish that we could have, you know, that we could do these things. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to him calling in shortly and discussing that with us. You know, and then you know, like I said, we'll talk about all-star conventions, because you know, I really feel like that's a cool thing that he does too. You know, sometimes it's hard to get a hold of people, you know, for conventions and things like that. You know, and to give people an idea, you can go to the actual website, which is conventionallstars.com. I was saying it wrong earlier. It's not All-Star Conventions, it's Convention All-Stars. The best in convention booking. With over 20 years of entertainment industry experience, Convention All-Stars LLC brings the fans the very best in celebrity guests, while also assisting the convention organizers themselves in putting on the best events possible. They also have on there, they tell you, don't let the name fool you. We don't just book celebrities in the conventions. They are available for all kinds of personal appearances, situations from private signings to speaking engagements in colleges or corporate events, golf tournaments, charities, and more. So, you know, he's definitely got a corner market on that, as well as he should. Like I said, his work pretty much speaks for himself. I know he has affiliation also with the Whorehound conventions. So again, when he calls in, that's something that we'll discuss. But looking at a list of some of the people that he represents through this business, we are looking at Norman Reedus from the Boondock Saints and The Walking Dead. There are several people from The Walking Dead. Sarah Wayne Callies is in there. John Bernthal, Linda Hamilton from Terminator, Vivica A. Fox, Sean Patrick Flannery, Alex Winter from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah.
Milo Ventimiglia. That guy was from.
Robert Carey from Revenge of the Nerds. You can't go too wrong with that. Curtis Armstrong, of course. Don Gibb. Yeah. Brian Tachi. Dean Cameron. From Summer School. Yeah. He came from outer space.
He was the horror fan. You remember that movie? They had the horror fans, and they basically went out and they were constantly pranking the teacher with blood and guts and freaked all the students out, and especially that foreign exchange student. That was great. 80s stuff, great.
80s horror. It's always a classic. And then we've also got names like Zach Galligan, Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Noonan, Kelly LeBrock. Let's see. Jeffrey Combs, of course, from Reanimator. There's a guy I'd like to have on the show. Steve Miner, Adrian King, Amy Steele, Steve Dash, Catherine Parks, Ted White from Friday the 13th.
I mean, these are all
Nick Castle, Ken Kersinger, Monica Keena, Tommy Lee Wallace. I mean, it's amazing when you look at the Tom Atkins. Big time. I mean, of course. Halloween 2, Creep Show, Danielle Harris,
Jason Lively,
Night of the Creeps, Brain Scan. Yeah, man. Brad Lorry.
Yeah, I just watched that movie.
Which one?
Night of the Creeps.
Good movie, wasn't it? I told you.
It was good stuff.
Peter Giuliano from The Prowler. That's nice. That's real nice. Oh, Caroline Williams, Dan Yeager.
Robert Russler.
Yeah. Amityville,
he was on
Nightmare on Elm Street.
On that skateboard movie, Thrashing, wasn't it? The Skater Kid.
Yes, it is listed.
And what was the leading role in that movie? Big time actor. What was his name?
I don't really remember that movie, but
drawing a blank.
It happens. Bruce Abbott, also from Reanimator. I mean, it's absolutely amazing when you look at who he's got. I mean, Oliver Smith.
Hey, look, the Terminator kid, Danny Cooksey.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
I mean, you guys you have got to check this page out. If you run, Dan Short from Tron, Janique Goldstein from Aliens, yeah, buddy. Debbie Lee Carrington from Total Recall, Sybil Danning, excellent. Susie Olsen from the Brady Bunch, Todd Bridges. Oh man. Yeah, you guys have you got to go check out conventionallstars.com. These guys are amazing. We're still waiting to hear in from Sean, so Sean, you out there listening? We're waiting. Oh, it looks like he just saw it on Facebook. So hopefully she'll be calling in a second.
Well, I tell you the truth. I tell you what, man, the convention thing. Have you been to any conventions recently?
I have not.
I haven't had a chance to really get to one here in a while, but the convention booking site that looks really cool. I mean, I imagine that if he's got that kind of outreach with that many actors, that he could probably slap together something really awesome. I mean, that's just really cool looking.
Oh, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, and you got to stop and think. You got to stop and think about the time and the effort that he puts into doing all that. Not only does he, like I said, do the Horror's Hallowed Ground, but the time and effort that he's probably put into putting the convention stuff together. It's real nice what he's done and everything. And like I said, I wish they would bring something to North Carolina. It's something that we don't get a lot of here, so it would be great. It would be great to get something like that here. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't seen very many conventions roughly this area in a long time, actually. I mean, most recent things I've seen, probably some Star Wars, sci-fi type genre-related stuff. But, obviously we need to have a nice little horror convention come roll through here, out there at the convention center. But, I mean, I haven't seen anything really all that great come through in a while. Though I imagine anything that he's connected with probably be great.
Right. And like I said, I'm pretty envious of his job. I wish it was something that I could do full time. I mean, not only the convention stuff, but just what he does for Scream Factory and Shout Factory. So,
well, while we're waiting on him, I mean, What about this Halloween DVD that you got? This Blu-ray, was it?
Oh yeah, I mean it was the Halloween Special Edition. It was one of the first ones that Scream Factory sent me, and being such a huge fan of the series, in and of itself, I find the Howling to be one of the greatest werewolf movies of all time, and I'm willing to punch anyone who disagrees with me when it comes to that. But it looks like Sean has called us in. So,
what's up?
What's up, Sean?
Me?
How you doing, man? Yeah, we hear you good.
Hey, Sean. I gotta apologize. I have been so busy that I was dealing with another guy from another radio show that I agreed to do another interview tonight, and I finished it like a half hour ago, and I mixed the two up. I thought they were the same show. Sorry.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, we can run you till 9:30. I mean, it's all good. Believe me, it's just a thrill to have you on the show. As a fan of horror films in general, I think the work that you do, not only with Scream Factory for the Horrors Hallowed Grounds, but the Convention All-Stars and the horror T-shirts as well. But to start us off, why don't you tell everyone how you got involved with the horror industry?
Just a fan, I basically, it was kind of an accident. I'm sorry, I'm calling you from an Italian restaurant right now. I'm going to walk outside because I just sat down with a friend of mine to eat, and I was checking my Facebook messages, and I read that, and I was like, oh, crap. Is this two different shows? I was like,
well, look, if I ever get out there to where you are and you come to North Carolina, I'll replace that dinner.
It's all good. It's all good. So anyhow, I was just a fan going to conventions, and, as opportunities presented themselves, I started to get more and more involved. It was always a dream of mine to be able to make a horror film, one way or another, whether it be a writer, director, or whether it was a guy sweeping up the set. I just wanted to be involved, and every time little opportunities arose, I took them. And, it was February of 2006 that I finally just sat down and told myself if I didn't quit my regular job and devote every hour of the day to pursuing these dreams, I was just never going to go anywhere. So I walked away from a good paying job and just kind of rolled the dice, if you will. And, within a year of doing that, Black Waters of Echoes Pond was in pre-production. So it was a gamble that paid off. So.
Right. Now, with going with the Horrors Hallowed Grounds for a moment, you started that wasn't it started more as a web series back in 2006?
Well, Horrors Hallowed Grounds originally started as a online article that was on a website called the Horror Channel, which was supposed to be a 24-hour horror movie channel that just never happened. So it was originally an online article, which then moved to dreadcentral.com, which then moved to bloodydisgusting.com, and eventually was picked up by Horror Hound as a feature in every issue. Doing it as a TV show was an afterthought that popped in my head when I was working on the 25 Years of Terror documentary. I was in Malika Codd's office one day, and he was, telling me we need more bonus features for this release, and do you have any ideas? And I just tossed out, I said, hey, I do this online thing, that's got a little bit of a following, and I've always thought it would be a cool show, and I explained it to him, and I showed him some footage that I had shot for fun, and he dug it, and he said, do it, man. He says, you got 2 weeks to deliver finished product. I'm like, 2 weeks? He's like, yeah, I need it in the can, deliverable in 2 weeks. So we ran out and we literally banged it out like super fast. And fortunately, like PJ Souls, who's a good friend, she was awesome and coming in at the last second and, going to some of those locations with me and everything. And it turned out good, and fans dug it, and I thought it had some momentum, and then suddenly it kind of petered out. as far as the show version. And
see, that's weird to me because, you know, as a horror journalist as well, and as someone who works in the industry, you know, I was saying before you came on how envious I was of the fact that, you know, you get to go to some of, you know, the most iconic horror locations, you know, that were ever shot. You know, I just, you know, I brought up Halloween 2 and 3, you know, The Howling, The Fog, Prince of Darkness. But, you know, when you were out there doing it, you know, the concept for it, can you kind of give people an idea of how much time and research goes into an episode? Because, you know, like you stated on The Howling, which we watched earlier, you know, you talked about don't come out here unless you know where you're going. So kind of can you give people an idea?
Yeah, I don't always take my own advice because I literally went out there not knowing where I was going. I mean, we walked around for hours trying to find a stupid cabin, and they all looked the same. And I was just like, we were freaking out because we knew we were a good 3 hours away from the airport, and we were running out of time, and we had to catch a flight that night, and everything that could go wrong was going wrong, and we just said F it and just bonsai'd, and we got it, we knocked it out, and we were jamming back like at crazy speed and just trying to make our flight. And then on the way to the airport, it looked like we were just going to make it. On the way, in the middle of nowhere, in like this desolate canyon out in the boonies, the car broke down. And fortunately, we had cell reception, and we were able to call a tow truck that towed us to this tiny little town that was straight out of a movie itself, and we ended up having to stay the night there. We missed our flight. It was my dad's car because my dad lives in Northern California, so I had borrowed one of my dad's cars, and so he wasn't too thrilled that I blew the engine, basically, and it was a bit. But the funny part about that is, the funny side part to that story is when I took the car from him, my dad's a mechanic, and my dad owns many, many vehicles and has his own shop in Auburn, California. And I said to him, I go, dude, do you think this car is going to make it? And he's like, it's fine. He's like, the car's fine. It's going to be, he was like, so, like, how dare you? How dare you ask me if this car's going to make it? He was offended. He was offended that I questioned his car, and that happened. So there was a little bit of kind of not satisfaction, but kind of like I told you so, you know. But
and we, you know, and we as children always love to get those over on our parents too. So so it is what it is. But so back to it becoming a series thing is like I did that episode. It got a really strong reception. We went right out and shot a Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode right after that, which has never been released. It's just never happened. We just shot it because we knew we were going to be in Texas and that our whole crew was going to be there, so we just did it. And then FearNet was just starting, and they were really interested, and they were high on doing it, and we had meetings with them, and they basically told me to my face it was a done deal. This was 110% definitely happening. It was going to be a series. I was all excited. And then suddenly they stopped calling, and I tried to call the guy one day to find out what was going on, and they informed me he was no longer with the company. So I was like, I was like, hey. And while that was happening, Black Waters of Echoes Pond was starting to really happen. So I kind of not so much got discouraged. I mean, I was still doing the stuff as a hobby and doing the articles with Horror Hound. That had just started to kick into gear, and I was just like, well, you know, maybe this TV show thing was never meant to be, and I got my movie now, so, you know, I'm just going to go with the flow. So I kind of sort of hung it up until
Andrew Cash and Buzz Wallach, who are my two guys I do Horrors Hallowed Grounds with. They're the cameraman and editor, basically.
Right.
And they were doing their documentary, Never Sleep Again, which Andrew directed. And, they called me up and said, hey, what do you think? Do you want to do one for this, And I was like, damn, yeah, of course I do. So we did one for Never Sleep Again. We did a Nightmare on Elm Street episode, and that got a huge response. And at the time, Robert Russler and I had been hanging out quite a bit, and same with Marshall Bell. And I was like, man, it's really a shame I can't get them involved in this because it's a Part 1 episode. And then I came up with the idea of, what if we just did this gag where they bump into me, at the Part 1 high school, and we kind of have a confrontation. It was just a silly joke that people really thought was hilarious. And obviously we've milked it to death at this point.
But now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When the new DVDs come up, like when Scream Factory, at this point now, does Scream Factory contact you and go, hey, we would like you to do a Horrors Hallowed Grounds for, we'll just use an upcoming title, Eva Destruction? Do they contact you, or do you do these on your own? And then when you hear that, they're releasing these movies, do you present them to them? I mean, how does that process work?
Well, let me tell you how it worked. Michael Felsher, who's a friend and works on just about everything under the sun horror out there, I've done some stuff for him. Like, I'd helped him on some of his projects, getting people for a lot of his behind-the-scenes, making ofs for various projects. And he got in touch with me. He said, hey, everybody's got their own motive, and everybody's, got to do what they got to do to get their thing done. And I think he realized, okay, I'm doing Halloween 2 and 3 for Scream Factory. I need all these actors for the featurettes. Basically, Sean Clark reps all of them. So how could I get them? Well, let me propose working with him on this project. So, he got in touch with me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing a Horrors Hallowed Grounds for Halloween 2 and Halloween 3? And I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me? They're two of my favorite movies of all time. So I was totally on board. And, of course, I helped him get all the actors he needed for the behind-the-scenes featurettes. So we went out, we did them. It almost didn't happen because I was so busy. I was insanely busy at the time they asked me to do it, and I had such a time crunch. And we turned them in, super proud of them, thought they went great. And then Scream Factory had some issues with content, whether it be some of the humor, some of the language, some of the spoofs we had done. And I don't really think they knew what they were getting into with me as far as what I did. I don't think Jeff Nelson told me he was familiar with the articles in the magazine and loved them, but had never seen one of my episodes. So when they got them, they were surprised that it wasn't exactly what they had thought it would be. I think they thought it was going to be a lot more of just pictures and almost like a video version of the articles, like, comparison photos and very straight and serious. And so there was a little bit of a tug of war there in the beginning, to where I got so frustrated I almost just said, screw it, don't put it on the thing, and I don't care anymore. And I got frustrated, and we compromised, and we all met to a happy agreement, and it fortunately went forward. And what then happened, I think, here we are, we hadn't worked together before, and it started off so rocky, like here's this guy that came out of nowhere, and he's arguing with us. So I don't think it started off so harmonious. But once they saw the final episodes and they liked them, they were just concerned about the content for, as far as distributors are concerned, and maybe, reviews, they obviously these are reviewed by every site horror site under the sun, DVD, Blu-ray sites. Once the fan response came back super positive and all the reviews came back super positive, suddenly they became super positive. And at that point, it was like, okay, let's do some more. And they told me what they had on the slate. I told them which ones I wanted to do. And for the most part, I've done all the ones I've wanted to do. I just missed a couple. I really wanted to do Day of the Dead, but I didn't have time. And, you know, so it's been great. I mean, those guys are great. Cliff and Jeff are awesome, and I have to thank Michael Felsher for making that connection. And, yeah, I mean, what an honor to be a part of those releases. And, you know, couldn't ask to work with a better group of guys now that we're all on the same page.
Oh, yeah, I mean, their releases are absolutely amazing. And the two people I deal with out there for the most part are Tom Chen and Sarah DeBrune, and, you know, they speak very highly of, you know, of your work. And, you know, of course, I've gone over to, you know, read some of your work in Horror Hound and things like that. But something that I've seen you wear in a couple of the episodes and stuff, are you the man actually responsible for getting the Horror Hound conventions going?
No, I have nothing to do with the Horror Hound conventions as far as putting the show on. That is completely Nathan Hanneman and Jeremy Sheldon. Those two guys are Horror Hound magazine, and they're completely responsible. You know, that's something that gets clouded a lot. People seem to get that mixed up because they're like, well, wait, you work for Horror Hound and you book celebrities, so obviously you put on the show. And it's like, no. I write for the magazine, that's it. I do an article in every issue, that is it. And it's my own article that I do. Beyond that, I have no association with Horror Hound in regards to putting the magazine together or the conventions. Obviously, we're super good friends, you know, and they know that I'm easy to work with, and they know that I have a certain level of celebrity that I can bring to the table, you know, in the form of my clients. So, yeah, they love working with me. So it's a great relationship with them, obviously. But yeah, people seem to think that I have something to do with putting on the show, but I don't at all. In fact, I don't really have anything to do with putting on shows, with the exception of the Halloween 25th and 30th anniversary shows that I put on in 2003 and 2008. I just kind of think I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest if a talent agent is also the promoter. You know, you can't wear both hats. It starts to kind of become sort of a monopoly, I guess. You know, you're trying to monopolize the system, and it's just, you know, it's like the talent agent running the film studio. So everybody's got to have their role, and I just I like mine as it is.
Since you brought it up, let's talk about Convention All-Stars for a minute. You know, when you look at the site, you know, almost 20 years of entertainment industry experience, kind of that would seem almost harder to get into than what you were doing with Horror's Hallowed Grounds. How did you go about how did you get into that part of it? To, you know, repping these people and what's that?
All of this was happy accidents. None of them were like I sat down and thought about doing it. They all kind of fell in my lap at one time or another. And, you know, I had a lot of friends that were celebrities from being a fan, going to conventions and meeting people and just hanging out after hours and the parties and the bars and, you know, getting to know them. And then I did the journalism thing with CreatureCorner.com and Horror Channel and Dread Central and Bloody Disgusting, and through that, you meet a lot of industry people and celebrities and become friends. And it all started basically with one particular celebrity badgering me constantly to get him into conventions that he knew I was friends with the promoters. And it turned into work, you know. And I was like, you know, this is like, I did you a favor, and now it's starting to feel like a job. And I was like, well, wait a second. Could this be a job? And if so, how could I make money doing it? And, you know, I started to think about it, and light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, oh, wow, you know what? I know all these people. I have all their contacts. wouldn't be that hard to call them up and ask them if they're interested in doing this. And basically, that's how it happened. I mean, I had just finished doing the 25 Years of Terror documentary. I had like every Halloween celebrity's contact info. So Convention All-Stars started off as basically nothing but Halloween stars for the most part. So it was all like, except for Richard Brooker, who was technically my second client ever. So it just kind of grew from there. And if you do a good job, if you're honorable and you're honest, the word will spread. You'll get referrals, and that's how I've built my business. I mean, I used to really go after people, trying to hunt down people, and but nowadays they call me, which is really flattering. And I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis called me one day. I was just blew my mind, So,
well, that's an interesting question, because we had talked about when they released The Fog on Scream Factory's DVDs. That was really the first time in a long time that she opened up about her horror film career. And,
you mean the Fog interview? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, we got the 35th anniversary edition release of Halloween that came out the other day, and she's on there extensively. And now it's coming to light that she may be involved with an ABC Family horror-themed series. Because I saw the pictures you had on your Facebook of, you and her, and I thought it was a great picture of the two of you. I can only imagine what it would be like to, be standing next to Jamie Lee Curtis like that. But what did you think about her kind of leaving the genre behind for a while and now opening up about it and starting to get back into it?
Hey, everybody goes through phases and hills and valleys, and, she wanted to step away from that and do something different. It's like people say to me, when they hear that was going to be her one and only convention appearance, people seem to get angry. I'm like, well, doesn't she realize how much money she can make for charity if she would just do a few more of these things? And it's like, what you don't understand is she's Jamie Lee Curtis. She can raise money for charity 1,000 different ways. It doesn't have to be at a horror convention,
That's very true.
and the same goes for her career. She doesn't have to pigeonhole herself into just one genre. And, she's a great person. I mean, I have nothing but the utmost respect for her. I mean,
I've never don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I've never met a more giving, caring person than her. I mean, she gave 100% of that money she made that weekend, to the Children's Hospital. And when I say 100%, I mean my 10% as well. I donated my 10%. So 100% of that money we raised that weekend, which was $182,000. I think 172 went to the Children's Hospital, and 10 went to a local charity in Indianapolis. That was one of the security guards that worked with us the whole weekend. He's involved with, and his kids are a part of. It was another Children's Hospital thing. She decided to take 10 of that and put it towards that, just as a gesture.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And, it's just, she's an amazing person, and, what an honor to be able to be involved with that. And, through that, I was able to convince her to do the Fog interview. We did that a couple weeks after the convention. I went to her house and we shot that. And, she's definitely loosened up about it. She was nervous. I mean, I know she comes off like this really strong, cocky individual, but she's actually not that person. She's a very guarded, private person who doesn't particularly feel very good in a big crowd situation. So it took a lot for her to come to a horror convention and do that. And she was so pleasantly surprised that it went smooth and the fans were great and there was no psychos and there was no drama. It was like, she was like, it really turned her around, because, a lot of these people, they have negative experiences, stalkers and stuff like that, and it sours them on it as a whole. And fortunately, she had such a positive experience that, I think she's a lot more open to anything involved with the genre from here on out, And she admits that in the documentary. She admits that,
And I think that's great because, it's the reason I brought that up is one of the series that I write on Horror Society is entitled Deadly Beauties, Scream Queens of Horror and Rising Talent. And I've noticed that a lot of actresses today, even girls who do primarily horror films, almost seem offended by the Scream Queen title.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was nice to finally see Jamie Lee Curtis coming out and talking about that, because for all intents and purposes, she is the quintessential Scream Queen. I mean, she was the one that it's all based. But
hands down, she's definitely hands down the number one female genre star of our time, living. Absolutely,
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left in our interview with you, so we have a few more things we want to cover.
Okay.
Going along with that, of course, seeing how much you enjoyed your experience with Jamie, when you've done all of your work so far, has there ever been anyone where you sat down and you started to interview them and you realized, oh my God, I'm interviewing so-and-so?
Well, I mean, even though I had already had a, relationship with Jamie and done the convention and everything, when I was at her house and I was interviewing her at her house and I'm walking through her house and I'm looking at family pictures on the wall of her and Christopher Guest, Nigel Tufnell from Spinal Tap. I mean, I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. I mean, that was nuts. I couldn't believe it. That was definitely an oh my God moment. That was one. I mean, I've had a lot. I mean, I've been doing this so long and I've been around so much of this stuff that, I could tell stories that are fanboy wet dreams all night long. And, it's crazy. The position I've gotten myself into is I don't take it for granted whatsoever. I completely respect and appreciate the position I'm in and the things I've gotten to experience and still get to experience. I mean, it is really bizarre. It's like an awesome, bizarre thing, that I just hope never ends,
Yeah, hinging on that, what would you say is like the pinnacle of your hopes and aspirations with what you do?
You mean my ultimate goal?
Exactly.
God, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If it all ended today, I would be satisfied. I mean, I've achieved way more than I ever expected to. I mean, the stuff that's been happening to me lately, I mean, the crazy fan base that I've suddenly developed, whether it be from the Hallowed Grounds stuff or just being the guy that's always a Norman Reedus, I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I appreciate it. And I mean, to see, people are getting Hallowed Grounds tattoos. I mean, I've seen 3 Hallowed Grounds tattoos. A girl today sent me a Facebook picture of a tattoo she got that says Malfunction, which is my Twitter handle, Malfunction. And I was like, that's real? Are you serious? That is real. You really got that? I'm like, holy crap, I mean, that kind of stuff is just so incredibly flattering, and I never thought in a million years would ever be happening to me. And, I see it all the time, especially being with Norman Reedus. I see probably at one convention 10 Daryl Dixon or Norman Reedus tattoos, So, to even, it's not even on the same level, but, I mean, that's more than I ever expected. And I made a movie, that was The Black Waters of Echo's Pond. I mean, that was a dream come true, that I actually did it. And like I said, if it all ended today, I would be grateful. I would be happy for what I achieved. Do I want more? Of course I want more. I want it to keep going, and I really hope I'll get to direct a feature someday, and that's one of my goals. But, to have been able to be involved in raising $182,000 for charity, for sick kids, that's such I appreciate that Jamie gave me the opportunity to be a part of that,
It's absolutely amazing. Well, we got about 5 minutes left with you, so let me get these down. Of course, you've interviewed Jamie and, everyone that you've interviewed to this point. But if there was one person in horror history, living or dead, that you could interview, who would it be? And if Scream Factory had open license to do a behind the scenes on any horror film, and you were the man that was going to do it, what would the film be?
The person would be Rod Serling. I would love to just sit down and talk with him for days. Or Stanley Kubrick, close second. And then the one that I would love to do, if you're basically asking me what horror's Hallowed Grounds would I love to do more than any, probably it's a toss-up between The Shining and Clockwork Orange. Even though The Shining, none of those sets actually exist, but I would love to, even though I did the article on Horror Hound, I would love to do a video version of it and explain to people exactly what was really used or what was based on what, because there's so many people that have it wrong. People come to me all the time and go, hey, I went to the hotel from The Shining. And it's like, well, what do you mean exactly? Oh, yeah, the one that was in the movie. And it's like, it doesn't exist. I hate to break it to you. It's not a real place. No, I was there. It's Timberline Lodge in Mount Hood. No. That was the exterior in the aerial shots, but that's not the real place. In all the close-ups, that was a facade, and then I have to explain to, it's just a long thing that I would love to be able to put that into a video version that I know the masses would see, and then they would get it. And they'd be like, oh, okay, I see. So there was 3 different locations, but none of them were real. It was fake, and, it would be nice to explain that. And then Clockwork Orange, just because it's my all-time favorite movie, and I've been to almost all those locations, and they're just so fascinating and such a thrill to be at when you're there. I just feel like such a total nerd when I was at those locations. So,
my choices would be in that is I would love to have interviewed Lucio Fulci, and especially with everything that's happened in New Orleans, if any of the locations still stood for the shooting of The Beyond. The old house and stuff. If any of that still exists, that would be mine. But we're coming up to the end here, Sean, and we do truly appreciate you coming on the show. We love your work.
No problem.
Can you tell everyone again, you write for Horror Hound magazine. If they want to get in contact with you, anything that people would need to get to you, promote your work, anything like that.
Well, basically, I'm on Twitter @malfunction. That's basically the word malfunction, but SEAN instead of TION. So MALFUNCSEAN. And that's also my Instagram account. I am on Facebook, but my personal account I've got like 3,000 pending. It's full. So, but I do.
Yeah, I tried to send you a friend request to post it on your wall, and it was like, no. You are at your friend Matt.
But I do have. I had to open one of those silly fan pages, so it's Facebook.com/Sean Clark Official. So I also can be contacted through there.
Okay, well, I'll definitely hit you up on there. Well, again, from Horror Society, we thank you for everything that you do. We love your work with Shout and Scream Factory, with Horror Hound. I would love to get you in one day and do, a full-length interview for Horror Society. So keep up the good work. If you ever have any news or info, please send it along. You're part of the Horror Society family as well, brother. Thank you for everything that you do, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Right on. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Anytime, man.
All right. Bye.
And that was Sean Clark from Horror's Hallowed Grounds. Does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work for Scream Factory Blu-rays. Speaking of which, our giveaway this evening is a Blu-ray copy of Psycho 3 and a standard definition copy of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead from Scream Factory. And once we get back from our Metal Blade Spotlight this evening, our artist, once again, is Amon Amarth. The CD is entitled Deceiver of Gods. When we come back from our 4-minute and 10-second break, we will take the first caller at 1-347-237-5099, and you will win a copy of Psycho 3 on Blu-ray in the standard definition edition of Day of the Dead. So until then, this is Amon Amarth off of Deceiver of Gods. The title track is Hell. And that was Amon Amarth. The CD was Deceiver of the Gods. The title of the track was Hell. Once again, they are our feature this evening on Metal Blade Spotlight tonight on Horror Society Radio. Just to give you a little bit of more background info on Amon Amarth, Johan Haig is on vocals, Ted Lundstrom on bass, Johan Soderberg on guitar, Olivier Mikkonen on guitar, and Frederick Anderson on drums. Once again, this is their 9th studio album. And, you know, I kind of felt like the album had a little bit more aggression this time around, and I think that's really what drew me to it. There was a darkness to this that I normally don't hear, and like I said, I don't want to call them power metal because that's not it. But that's what this style of metal reminds me of. But, you know, I have to admit that the pump in it, I mean, definitely the song like Blood Eagle and, you know, Hell in particular, you know, having Candlemass's ex-lead singer on there was a nice touch. But definitely an album worth running out and getting. Once again, we got to say thank you to Metal Blade Records for allowing us to share such great and epic metal with you.
Thank you, Metal Blades.
You know, what's your thought on Amon Amarth? Because, you know, on my end, I listen to stuff a lot heavier by them, you know, Cattle Decapitation, Cannibal Corpse, you know, and, you know, you listen to some of that metal as well, but you tend to lean a little bit more towards this style of metal.
There's definitely a Norwegian, Norse type sound, so yeah, it's definitely that power feel, but not quite power metal. I'm there with you. I know what you're trying to say, but yeah, good stuff.
But for those of you that, you know, have a hard time with death metal because you can't understand the lyrics, this is definitely more of a cleaner sounding death metal, if there's any other way to put it. You can certainly understand what it is that they're saying. But before we get into our DVD review this evening, the Blu-ray of Psycho 3 Collector's Edition from Scream Factory, we have a Blu-ray copy of Psycho 3 and a standard definition DVD of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead from Scream Factory. Please be the first caller at 1-347-237-5099 to win your copies of these DVDs. And you know, these are great. Scream Factory does such an excellent job putting together their Blu-ray releases. You'd be silly not to get it. And one of the interesting aspects to the Psycho 3 DVD Blu-ray that we're giving away is, as most of you know, Scream Factory does alternative DVD art for a lot of their films, and with this particular series, the studio wanted them to keep the original artwork. So in and of itself, it's not bad. You get some additional pictures and stuff on the inside cover as opposed to an alternative DVD cover. But it's still nice after all these years to see, you know, Anthony Perkins grace a DVD cover, especially one of such excellent quality. Once again, if you would like to be the winner of the Shout Scream Factory prize pack, please give me a call at 1-347-237-5099. Shout Factory does a great job of giving us things for giveaways. So, but let's get on to the DVD review for the evening. Of course, we are going to be talking about Scream Factory's Psycho 3 Collector's Edition on Blu-ray. You know, as last week we had discussed Psycho 2, the Collector's Edition Blu-ray, and I kind of brought up the point that with Psycho 2, you know, storyline aside, going into the special features, which is, you know, a very key component to me when it comes to these DVDs. You know, Psycho 2 had the all-new audio commentary with screenwriter Tom Holland, and it had the electronic press kit, you know, that had Anthony Perkins and most of the cast and crew, you know, Richard Franklin, the director, you know, had TV spots and, you know, the theatrical trailer. And, you know, kind of understandable, you know, Anthony Perkins not being alive, there wasn't a lot of new features, you know, to add to that. You know, you can hem and haw about having some of the other actors on, but where I think Psycho 3 certainly surpasses Psycho 2 is the special features and the bonuses that have been added for this. With this edition, we have the new audio commentary with screenwriter Charles Ed Pogue. We have a really nice, about 20-minute interview with Jeff Fahey called Watch the Guitar, where he talks about his character in the film and, really gives a lot of insight on working with Anthony and how he actually got his head split open during the scene where Norman hits him in the head with the guitar, which was, kind of funny. Not funny, but he wound up having to get stitches, and he talks about having to come back on set and how they scared Anthony and made him nervous, about the fact that he came back wearing a bunch of bandages and stuff. So, it really made for a great review and interview talking about the series. And once again, we still have that DVD prize pack, the Blu-ray of Psycho 3 from Scream Factory, and the standard definition DVD release of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Please give us a call at 1-347-237-5099. DVD packages are courtesy of our friends at Scream Factory and HorrorSociety.com. If you need all of your horror news from a great centralized location, make sure to visit HorrorSociety.com. As far as other special features for the Psycho 3 DVD release, we also had Patsy's Last Night, which is a new interview with actress Kat Shea. She talks about how Anthony Perkins basically made her favorite, or Anthony Perkins referred to her as her favorite on the set as he's dragging her dead body around and being placed in ice receptacles and actually turning blue on camera. It's a fun interview to read or to view. We also have Mother's Maker, which is an interview with special makeup effects creator Michael Westmore. And being an effects artist myself, it was nice to hear how they went about recreating Mother, and that's something we'll talk about in a minute when we get to the plot points of the film. And then what was really nice is there was a small segment with Brink Stevens called Body Double. And in it, she talks about how she, she did the body work for Maureen Coyle. Diana Scarwood. She does the nudity scenes for that character. And she talks about her audition and how she came in and how Anthony Perkins had told her her hands were too graceful. She had dancer's hands, and how they went about changing that so that they could, give the character more of an appearance of, being a nun, not being as graceful as Brink, of course, was during that time. So it was really nice to see Brink on something again, especially after having her being gracious enough to do an interview with the Deadly Beauty series on Horror Society. So that was really nice to see. And then we had, the theatrical trailers and the TV spots and the still gallery, standard things you get from a Scream Shout Factory Blu-ray release. So, in terms of getting new things and is this DVD worth your while for the special features? Most definitely. No argument there. Once again, we do have a special prize pack to give away. It will include the Blu-ray copy of Psycho 3 on Blu-ray and a standard definition DVD of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Once again, give us a call at 1-347-237-5099. Now, going on more of the plot, Psycho 3 picks up where Psycho 2 left off. Norman is still running the hotel. If you remember, he murders Mrs. Spool at the end of the second movie when she claims to have been his birth mother. Well, the story kind of picks up from there. We find out that Mrs. Spool is, of course, crazy and is not Norman's real mother. It turns out to all be a hoax. As a matter of fact, she was Norman's mother's sister, and Norman's mother actually stole the husband away from her. So, there's that whole triangle there. Norman, trying to keep his sanity while people continue to pester him. But, what was unique about the series is it carried on the aspect of, can a condemned killer be rehabilitated and moved back into society, which is pretty much, the running theme of the film and the series. And, Norman, spoiler alert, Norman goes back to his old ways and things start happening. But you almost get the impression with the character of a Marine that Norman may be looking to change his ways, to go along a better path and not be a murderous killer, but circumstances dictate otherwise. One of the other things you look at in the film is, Norman's mother, if you remember at the end of the second film, was dug up in her grave and much more emaciated, the corpse. And in this one, you're left to kind of wonder whether it's Mrs. Spool's body upstairs or if Norman dug his mother back up. But there's an interesting aspect to that. And it also appears in this film that Norman almost shows necrophilic tendencies, which is something I don't ever feel like was really talked about in the original series. Now, Calvin, I know we had spoke earlier, and, you had said you had not seen Psycho 3, but, based on what I've let you know, I mean, what do you think about the evolution of the character and where they went with Norman and his relationship with his mother?
Well, I mean, Norman was always a little bit on the creepy side to me. I mean, as far as his tendencies with his mom, I can't speak for that. But, hey, right, it just makes him all the more a creep, I suppose. Other than that, I do have a question, though. I mean, as far as the transfer quality of this DVD, what's your take on it?
It's absolutely stunning, just like any of their other releases. I mean, there was an earlier release version of this on DVD. I mean, I don't have a copy of it, but looking on DVDEmpire.com and looking up, a lot of the statistics and the stats for the DVD, it certainly does not hold a candle to this edition. I mean, the movie looks clean. It's not grainy. The sound quality is amazing. And again, it's a real treat to be able to see Anthony Perkins, reprising the role that he made so famous. And this was his first directorial debut as well. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind when you watch the film. Not only did you have the guy who played Norman Bates and made Norman Bates famous, but now he also stepped in the role of director as well. So, and, there was one more title after this. There was Psycho for the Beginning, and then we have the aborted Bates motel series that they tried to do years ago, and now you have, the one that's on TV now that's so critically acclaimed. But, it's nice to see Scream Factory bring these films back. It's the first time we've seen them on Blu-ray. We're not getting a rehash. They're definitely giving us something for our money. So I certainly don't feel as if the company has double-dipped on us. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to come to the end of the show here. So, again, if you want to win the Psycho 3 Blu-ray and the Day of the Dead Standard Edition prize pack, please give us a call here at 1-347-237-5099. So, all said and done, definitely a DVD you need to go and pick up. It's worthy of your collection. And the story's not bad. I mean, I do have to admit, for 2 and 3 to follow up such an original classic as the original, they hold up well over time. The third one definitely has more nudity and gore than you would expect. I mean, from that aspect, it kind of takes away a little bit from the psychological, but they've done such a great job, with the series and how they portrayed Norman and his problems that I feel like any small minor acting details can be overlooked in this series. So hopefully we'll never see another remake of Norman because the last one was just absolutely hideous. But
just ass, huh?
Yeah. Having more money and doing a shot-for-shot remake is not always the way to go. But let me ask you before we head out this evening, what are your thoughts of being on the show, man? What did you think?
Oh, man, it's good stuff, man. Love it. Hope to be on again sometime. Hopefully your listeners will, get something out of it, and maybe I'll appeal to them a little bit. Definitely not the horror expert that most of you guys and you especially and your listeners are, but hey, if I can get on here and share my insight and give a little bit back to what all you guys love, and that's great. I hope that I can contribute in the future.
Well, I mean, we certainly are looking forward to having you on again. So once again this evening, we would like to say thank you first and foremost to Sean Clark of Horror's Hallowed Grounds, part of a DVD series or special feature series with Scream and Shout Factory Blu-ray editions of horror films. He also has his own website for that, which is currently under some work, but you should be able to go on soon and check out some of his other work with that. Also, check out horrortshirts.com. He has a storefront and a line of shirts that are extremely interesting. One of my favorite ones is the spoof he does on Shaun of the Dead, which I highly recommend. And also check out his page, conventionallstars.com. If you are looking to have talent come out to any of your horror-themed conventions or need a speaking engagement or anything along those lines, that is definitely the site to check out. I myself, of course, am the Dedman. I am a writer for HorrorSociety.com. Please make sure to come out and check us out at www.horrorsociety.com. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. We also want to say thank you this evening to Scream Factory, of course. DVD giveaway for Psycho 3 and Day of the Dead. We also want to say thank you to Metal Blade Records once again. The spotlight artist this evening was Amon Amarth. The album was Deceiver of the Gods. And before we leave you for the evening, of course, as we always do, we will play a special track for next week's Spotlight listener, Spotlight band. The name of the band is Kill Division. The name of the CD is Destructive Force, and the title of the song is Locked Up Forever. So until next week, this is the Dedman saying, rest in peace. Come on!